invasion, guys. Let's talk about it, of how we went from not even reaching level 500 invasion to all of a sudden breaching 1 million levels in invasion, and how this was done. I'm going to take you guys through everything of the process of what was happening at different levels, what we had to do, and yeah, how it all began just trying to climb as normally would, and how this area of how a couple items together mixed with old content allowed us to completely become gods in invasion, not die, and clear infinite amounts of level. So yeah, let's get into it, and I hope you guys enjoy. So before we actually get super deep into it, I think it's important to talk about what invasion actually is in terms of bit heroes. So invasion is a bit like Gauntlet, and it's a game mode where basically a player fights endless waves of enemies to obtain equipment, cosmetics, schematics, and unique fusion materials. And the player can choose character, town NPCs, or the familiars when forming their parties. And each invasion has specific detailed unique familiars, and I stole all of this from the Bit Heroes wiki, which I always leave in the description down below. It has lots of useful information. Please do check it out. But yeah, essentially invasion is an endless game mode where you fight enemies. So yeah, taking a closer look at the invasion levels, you can see this here is build that Dan was using to do the climb. This was kind of the final template of the build. Essentially uses deflect and evade, the Witcham set, with Lucky Clover and the jacket. But how this all started off was just genuinely the best build was obviously going Witcham for invasions, as enemies didn't have offensive brains or any kind of brains to kind of like get through your bark skin, and evade was a really good form of mitigation. See Ghoul kind of running the same similar setup. Everyone was running deflect. I obviously at the time didn't have the deflect accessory, so the way I was trying to run it was using a more offensive kind of setup where I would do 75% evade and then just try to do as much damage as possible. And this would work fine, but once you get to a certain level of invasion, your damage becomes so little that it's kind of like you can ignore it completely. And the way you're going to be dealing damage to the enemies is using deflect. So using the enemy's damage for them to defeat themselves, not your own damage. But how it started off was me kind of exploring this non-deflect setup, try to get as high as possible. One point the runs was very, very slow, and obviously I had to kind of like figure out a different setup to continue to climb. And this takes us to the actual full setup, which everyone was running at the time, which was 75% evade and the deflect accessory for 21% deflect. However, this was not the actual final template that we used to break the game completely. So let's continue forward and keep on getting into it, and you guys will see what it's all about. So after trying a couple different builds, it occurred to me that the thing I would need would be the deflect accessory. And at the time I was trying to get this, I didn't realize that was so essential for this actual build to work. I ended up, you know, doing what I do best, which is random rolling the wrong thing and getting a duplicate of it anyway, which happens, and so be it. I did have the legendary deflect for the time being, and I did use that. And invasion, just so everyone knows, how it usually works is if you're not going to lose, there's a certain amount of turn rate which forces the game to actually make you lose. So if I show you this clip here, you can see that I've lost, but I have not actually died. And that is because I've actually reached the turn cap. And what that means is the amount of turns that the game processes before it ends the actual run over there. And this exists for everything, I believe. But this is just one thing that stopped us from just autoing all the way from level 1 to 1 million. So that's absolutely impossible. There's too many turns, too much for the game to process in terms of data, and that there is a turn cap in the actual game itself, which is unknown so far, but we can guess what it is. So I think the first thing to talk about is the game was running 100% as normal until a certain level. So you would do around 50 waves, and then the game would force the turn cap on you, or you would get very, very unlucky and end up dying, which would rarely happen. Usually it'll be around 50 levels you climb, and then the game would exit you, you'd change the difficulty and climb another 50 levels, and you would do this over and over again. I believe Ghoul was the first one to reach 1,000, so congrats to him. Him and Dan, obviously, we all talked together and we helped each other reach the super high levels of invasion that we were able to do. And I tried many different builds before we all talked, and we ended up on this. And I said before that it was 75% evade and 21% or whatever amount to deflect, where the actual perfect balance was around 36% deflect and 38% evade, which with Lucky Clover made those things pretty much be 50%. Well, we rolled them twice, and you'd be consistently avoiding damage. And if you were to take damage, your pet would heal you more than 50% of your life, which the item jacket essentially means you cannot take more than 50% damage. So if you do end up taking 50% damage of your total stamina, your pet with low enough stamina and high enough power should be healing / shielding 50% of your stamina, meaning you actually ended up taking 0 damage. And obviously I tried many different setups with bleed in terms of damage, where my character himself, his damage didn't matter. It was all in terms of surviving and making the enemies deal damage to themselves, where you can see the numbers got pretty crazy. The game starts running a bit slowly and run into a couple bugs here and there that I will show you guys and take you through it. But essentially the game was running as normal up until level 5,000-6,000, where some anomalies start to happen, which I will show you exactly what they are. But you can see the numbers are incredibly high. You're already reaching to the millions of damage at this point. And I would never be able to deal this amount of damage consistently or be able to survive this kind of damage if it was not for Lucky Clover and Jacket working together to achieve this, as well as the enemies not having a way to bypass my Jacket, and yeah, having the evade, the 100% damage mitigation, which is evade, deflect, and the Jacket plus pet combo. So this isn't one item or one thing making it broken. Even with all of this combo in terms of a build, you still wouldn't be able to do this if it was not in old content where there's nothing to bypass Jacket. So yeah, around level 4,000 you got some more footage. We're reaching 5,000 soon, but yeah, we'll get to the next stage now. Oh, very quickly before I do that, actually, I'm actually going to take you through the build, which is essentially using Witcham. My runes are evade. Wait, let's exit this. Go here. This is easy to see. So we're using all deflect enchants. We're using deflect accessory. We're using evade. A lot of stuff is not important. It's more so the bonus of having that evade and deflect chance being at that sweet spot where you're not taking damage and you're dealing as much damage to the enemies as possible. So all of this in the build is kind of required. Some stuff that might not be is the meta rune doesn't really matter too much. Other things don't matter, but essentially the core of it, concept of it, is important. But you can see already the game starts to load already for quite a long time, and eventually do get end, but you'll see that this is just one of the many bugs and things that you will see over the course of the invasion climb. And one of the bugs, of course, that I found very funny was when I just became a tombstone and the game was continuously loading out the battle. But yeah, let's so I'm gonna show some footage now of some streams, and I'll let old version of me talk a little bit about invasion and what's going on. So one thing that has inevitably happened, guys, we have reached the end. We cannot play invasion anymore. The game just will not let us load into it. There is no way for me to show you the numbers, as I am no longer able to go into the game. So that's a little bit sad. That's kind of the end. Maybe I'll get in, but what's been happening is I've been getting stuck. It's been taking a while to load me in. So, problems we encounter. Trying to enter waves. So this is currently the maximum I can do. 6649. Remember that, guys. 6649. The game will not let me in. Or maybe it will. I've never seen the numbers for this. So let's look at it. 30 million absorbed. Oh my god. I didn't think the numbers could get much higher than this. 19 million absorbed. Let me in. Let me in, guys. Okay, we're in luck here. This is very special. I have never seen a battle in 6,000. This is my first time seeing. Let's see the master. Damage he deals to himself. Be big. 100. Wasn't even empowered. It was 100k. So yeah, as Streamy was saying, there were many bugs, many issues in terms of the numbers changing and flickering and things like that, and there was a lot of deep investigation. But the way the climb had to continue after a certain amount of level, which I think was around 5,000, everything was smooth and normal. You'd climb 50, exit, go in, not exit the game, but exit the invasion, or you run the turn cap. You didn't have to redo it, but at 5,000 things started to load forever. Sometimes it would let you in, sometimes it wouldn't, and when it would let you in, it would be essentially a bugged run. But you could still essentially climb by trying to enter, getting stuck in the loading screen, exiting the game, and going back into it, and then you would have climbed a certain amount of levels, which I still believe was 50 at this time, roughly. Well, give or take a few, you might have lost before, but the battle runs on the actual server of Bit Heroes, not on the actual game that you're seeing. So the battle runs and it simulates the battle in the server, and then you essentially climb that way. And you'd have to keep restarting the game every single time. Eventually you would get in, and there would be another kind of like special bug. See if I can show it here, give me 1 second. So with this bug here, it's kind of like still the same thing as before. Pay attention, I'm using 5 badges, wave, I'm not sure which wave it is, but essentially we get stuck here, and this doesn't mean you're actually stuck here. So if you've seen my previous video on how not to leave invasion, you can spam enter backspace to actually control a couple things, or spacebar as well to control a couple things. So what I do here is press backspace. You can see the wave I enter at is 6869 using 5. I have 48 tickets, or badges, sorry I should say. You can see my points and everything. And by spamming backspace and enter, what I'm actually doing is I'm entering multiple battles into the server. Bear in mind, I'm not getting any loot for this or experience. It's just climbing the points, which was a little bit strange, but 100% sure. Not getting any loot for this, not getting any experience. But you see I now have 43 tickets, so it actually ran 2. And it does actually increase the wave, but it's giving me the points, but it's not giving me very much of anything else. This was kind of not like, see, I got 28 now. It's it's very bugged, but it's running the battles in the server, but I'm not able to see them. So this was a very strange, bizarre type of bug, where you could essentially climb points very quickly, and the level would always begin at the level selected, which is 6869. Although at this point, if I was able to select it, it would be above 6869. It would be quite much higher than this. So if give me a second, I do believe I quit this in a second. So let's see if I load back into the game now. Give me 1 second. Okay, oh, actually, there you go, ran out of badges, so you don't even need to wait for anything. We see the points have gone up by an incredible amount. I've actually managed to use all the badges, and the wave I'm at has actually increased, because it has actually ran it. And then this was another way that you could keep running runs, but this didn't last too long, as things ended up bugging out and continuing to break throughout the run. But this was how you continue to climb, I think, until about wave 10,000. But I'll keep on going through the footage. We'll keep on exploring what keeps on happening. But we've been climbing to reach another wall essentially. So let's get into it. Now I did forget to mention that obviously this wasn't always the case, where sometimes you would try to replicate the way of climbing before pressing backspace and enter, and it wouldn't always end up how you'd want it to end up. Sometimes it would essentially, you'd still be forced to close the game and reopen it, which still made the runs were still going through. It just meant there was a longer process in terms of having to restart it. So you see, you get the message pop up there, and there's not much you can do. So you're stuck in this kind of loading screen limbo thing, and the only solution is to restart the game. And this isn't the dev's fault. This isn't a massive bug. This is our players' fault for breaking the game and getting to such a high level, which shouldn't have been possible. And it is remedied at the moment in the current time. There is a fix for it, which I'm not going to go into it now. But yeah, let's see what else there is. So it might seem like a bit of a skip that now all of a sudden level 15,000, but I actually didn't record very much beforehand. But I'll talk to you a little bit about what was happening. So there was a lot of hard issues where you would actually load into the game, and you see I lost over there. That's actually there's going to be footage afterwards where I slow it down and it shows that it's actually kind of weird bug that you get one-shotted. Things where you reach the turn cap somewhat, or something goes wrong in the game. But once you get around level 10,000, 9,000, you enter another issue where before you can load into the game, but you could still climb, where now afterwards you start loading into the game, but if you load into the game, you end up bugging out a lot. And what happens is it does the run normally for you, but it starts lagging so much and dropping so much FPS that you're forced to restart the game, which would have meant the runs would have taken so much longer than usual. So here's the example I was showing where I kind of die very quickly out of the blue, where it shouldn't be happening like this. See, it happens there. Again, I think this is another example where it happens. I think I end up slowing it down over here. Maybe I don't, but essentially it's just instant death where you die. And this is not slow down, this is actual real-time footage. See Dan logging in at the top there. It just starts lagging so much that you cannot keep on climbing. So you just had to restart the game. So it was very weird. And I'll explain what's happening here in a second. There's still monsters, but you see a bunch of tombstones and things like this. And this is because they actually failed to spawn in the mobs towards the end of the game. And you gotta kind of like make it lag out and bug out in order to actually run the run for you. But at this stage of the thing so far, where it's 22,000, you're still climbing consistently. You just gotta force the game to kind of like bug out in a way to where you actually get a turn, where you shouldn't be getting a turn because you could have auto on, auto off, but the enemies have so much total stats that they have essentially way more speed than you, that to the point where you don't even get a single turn in a single run. But sorry, jumping too far ahead in the timeline here. So roughly level 10,000, you start loading into the game, it starts bugging out a lot, but you can go into the game, hit auto, close the game, restart it, and that counts as a full run, and you end up climbing 50 or so levels. Same thing happens afterwards, where you'll see where it's like the game struggles to find when you're getting a turn, when you're not. So some packs there will be no monsters spawning, and because of this, whereas before you climb 50 levels, so I'm struggling to find the words, you climb 50 levels before, because there's no mobs, it ends up being less turns, which means you end up climbing 100 levels or 200 levels, where it ends up being 5,000 levels, the cap, where you'd be climbing. I'm not going to spoil quite yet what exactly is happening, but I'll show you guys. If you give me 1 second. So yeah, over here, ignoring the big numbers, we're now at stage 45-ish thousand. We're climbing 200 or so levels at a time. Things are very, very buggy. I have to try to force the game to not load me in, because at this stage, up to I think 100,000, it started around now, up to 100,000, I have to try to not load into the game, because what happens if I end up loading into the game, the run will not count and it will be forfeit run. So I need to make, that's why I was adding in familiars, trying to swap them around, trying to get the game to stay stuck on the endless loading screen, exit it then, and then restart it. And I would have ended up climbing 200 or so levels. and this persisted for quite a while, for 50,000 levels. Considering I'm going up 200 levels at a time, it's not too bad, but it did take a fair few runs for us to eventually get to the point to where we were completely unlimited and uncapped. You can see already the mobs just kind of giving up. The numbers are still there, it's super huge, but we're going to get to a point where we're not going to be seeing very many numbers, and you'll see why in a second. So we reached another level of the Bit Heroes invasion climb after we've breached the 100k, 120k mark of invasion after struggling the way we did before. Now, see, the loading time is already super huge to load the wave score. We are at a super high wave to where now at this stage there are no more mobs spawning, as you can see, and essentially that's it. That's invasion done and beat at around 120,000 k. Invasion is beat, so your gear doesn't matter, nothing matters. The game essentially loads through 5k levels and then it exits the game just then and there. So if I show you the actual clip, you can see Dan over there just chilling. good guy Dan. To where the final levels, you were going up to 5k levels consistently at a time, and we're obviously both restarting the game all the time because that was the only way to really climb. And it got to a point to where it just took 10 minutes to load, and it was just not worth it. But you see Dan is still at 61k. Once he gets to 100k ish, he'll go up 5k levels at a time, which is what ends up happening. Which I think during this run, this is the one where we breach actually 1 million in invasion, and I tried to time it so it's exactly 1 million, but it ends up being very difficult. But at this stage there are no more mobs, and you load in, and whatever wave you select, you go up 5,000 levels, and then it ends the run there. So I think what I tried to do is calculate it. Very difficult here. I think I tried to calculate it so that it will slingshot me exactly at 1 million, but I don't know what happens. I think it end up being off by like a little bit, and it's very sad. But while this is loading, I'd just like to say it was an incredible journey. This this whole invasion ordeal. Had really a lot of fun with it. Definitely not gonna try to do this again, and it's gonna be probably impossible to do this again with the current fix that they have. But it was the only time I think that invasion's ever really truly gonna be beaten. So you see load in, there's no mobs. 995001. I just need to exit the game here. I think what ends up happening is I exit it late, because I was paying too much attention while I was recording. And you'll see once I do exit the game and load back in, to where if I just skip this bit and we'll load back in now. So yeah, here we go, we're loading back into the game. And you'll see I wanted to land at exactly 1 million, but unfortunately the game wasn't so kind, and it ended up slingshotting me slightly over. I had no idea how this happened, but it was very sad. I managed to get the 999 on the leaderboard, took a screenshot, have it saved. But at this point all I really wanted was to see what the actual million was like in the battle. So we're gonna go in here and we're gonna see what it actually looks like turning from 999,000 into 1 million. Where we'll select it here. There we go. And it's very weird. Afterwards, the waves all say million, so it's impossible to differentiate them. So it's impossible to kind of predict where you're gonna land. But it was honestly one of the best journeys I had. One probably the greatest achievements I think that I've done in the game. It was really cool. Updating the whole community as I went along, talking to the devs about what was happening, because this was unexplored Bit Heroes territory. Truly a whole load of fun, I think, and defeating this is might give ideas of what potentially could happen in the future. What, don't know, it opens up a whole world of possibilities. So I'm just kind of waiting just to hit 1 million, and it'll mark the end of the invasion climb. Very lucky that no one logged in as we turn this milestone. So 9999999, turning in a couple seconds, I hope, to 1 million. And there it is. So yeah, I thank you all for watching. This took a little longer than expected to put out, but if you enjoyed it, do thumbs up, subscribe, join my Discord so you can keep up to date with me and talk to me outside of Bit Heroes. Unfortunately, I can't add everyone as a friend. Always I would, but yeah, it's been a blast, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.